Hello YouTube, this is Mandragora coming to you today to share with you my Infinitrack deck profile. When it comes to archetypes in Yu-Gi-Oh! XZ spam archetypes are usually my favorite. Infinitrack is probably the newest addition to this lineup of playstyle, and the artwork's great and it's super cool, and there's lots of really cool monsters you can run. So we'll get right into it. First, we have Infinitrack Harvester. What this card does is when it's normal special summon, add an Infinitrack monster from your deck to your hand. And it also has a level manipulation effect where you can add its level to whatever you target on your side of the field as long as it's a machine monster, and they get added together. Usually you end up at level 7 with Infinitrack Harvester. Infinitracks really like the odd numbers. Next up is Infinitrack Anchor Drill. Lets you special summon something when it's normal special summon from your hand, and then also you can target a monster on your side of the field as long as it's a machine, add their levels together, and you usually end up at level 9 with Anchor Drill. Next are the Infinitrack archetype play extenders. Infinitrack Trencher, all level 5 Infinitrack monsters share the same effect where you can special summon them from your hand by tributing one earth machine monster from your side of the field, and you can special summon them in defense position. So I'm not going to repeat that for all the level 5s, but just keep that in mind. What Trencher does is when it's in your graveyard, you can banish it to special summon a Infinitrack monster from your graveyard to the field. So it's easy recursion, super simple. Next is the newest support from Chaos Impact, Infinitrack Brutal Dozer. Brutal Dozer, when it's special summoned from the hand, you can special summon a Infinitrack monster from the deck out on the field in defense position, but its effect is negated. But this adds so much consistency to the deck you want to run too, because the main problem is that sometimes you won't start out with enough Infinitracks with your hand to actually make plays. This allows for instant access to your deck to whatever you want, and then you can special summon it using any number of means and actually use its effect. It does lock you into Earth Machine monsters after you've used its effect, but you can do whatever you want beforehand, so make sure to use these at the end of your turn if you want to have the most effective strategy. Next up are the one-ofs. One Infinitrack Crab Crane, one Infinitrack Tunneler, and one Infinitrack Drag Shovel. Crab Crane lets you banish an Earth Machine monster from your grave to add an Outrigger extension from your deck to your hand. We'll talk about that later, but it's super important. Infinitrack Tunneler lets you target 5 Earth Machines in your graveyard, shuffle them back into their respective areas, and then draw 2 cards. I've seen some people playing 2 of these. I don't agree with it. I think you can only get this effect off efficiently once per duel, so I only run the 1 copy. And then since this is a going second deck, you have Infinitrack Drag Shovel to help with when you have to go first. This lets you add the 1 trap card that we run in the deck spoilers from your deck to your hand. Is called Spin Turn, by banishing 1 Earth Machine from your graveyard, and then you can add it to your hand. Next up are the different archetype but still supporting a Infinitrack play style cards, which are 3 Ancient Gear Wyvern, 1 Ancient Gear Box. You use Ancient Gear Wyvern to add Ancient Gear Box to your hand. You use Ancient Gear Box ability to add a Earth Machine with 500 attack or defense. Your targets are Trencher, Anchor Drill, Crab Crane, and Tunneler. More than enough variety to warrant running this package. And then on top of that, the number one problem with Infinitracks is you have to have a Earth Machine monster that is normal summonable, and all 4 of these cards are extra normal summons that you can use. So even though this is your 1 Garnet in the deck that you really don't want to draw, it can still be useful because it is a normal summon. And then rounding off the Earth Machine monsters is 2 Flying Pegasus Railroad Stampede. Monster Reborn on legs lets you special summon in defense position, but the effects are negated. And then on top of that, you can target a monster and make their levels the same, either 4 or 5, usually in this deck. Usually you want to go for the 5 because I don't run any rank 4s in this deck that would actually be... I find that, you know, the only good one for this deck is Gear Gigant X, and I find that that's such an underwhelming play that I rather just not play him. I rather run the other Infinitrack, and you'll see why later in the extra deck. Next off, I know it's not controversial, I know it's not special, but here we go. Since it's a going second deck, 3 copies of Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit, 3 copies of Ash Blossom, just for the interruption, for the play negation. Really solid cards. We all know that at this point, but the Infinitracks need them, so I play them. Next up, we'll move on to the spells. We will start with Outrigger Extension. Outrigger Extension grants protection to all your Xyz monsters on that are machine on your side of the field from targeting, and also it allows you to rank up an Earth Machine monster on your side of the field up by 2 into a different Xyz monster that is a machine. The thing that comes out does not have to be a Earth Machine monster, but the thing that you target does have to be an Earth Machine monster. So we do run some tech cards that are higher ranks to rank up into, but otherwise, this is a super solid card. Makes your big Infinitracks really quickly. Also, it does lock you into Earth Machines for the rest of the turn after you use this effect, but usually you're using Brutal Dozer anyway, so you don't really it doesn't really matter. Next thing is Machine Dupe. 3 copies. You have 2 targets, Harvester or Trencher. You usually want to use it on Trencher, but in a pinch you can also use it on Harvester. Super easy swarming. Next up, just because getting that first Earth Machine monster out on the field is super important, 3 instant fusion lets you get a level 5 Earth Machine monster on the field extremely quickly and easily. When we will go over what the fusion I've picked for this deck is, but it really doesn't matter because as long as it's an Earth Machine, it's fine. Next up, 2 Urgent Schedule. Lets you special summon a level 4 or lower and a level 5 or higher Earth Machine from your deck in defense position, and their effects are negated. Super easy swarming, leads to a lot of plays. I was wanting to run 3 copies, but I find that 2 copies is just fine. It's more of a win more card than anything. Then just to round it off, because this for spells, because this card loses the hand trap super easily, Called by the Grave is highly recommended because it stops your opponent from stopping you from playing the game. Now we're on to our last main deck card, our only trap card, 1 Spin Turn for Drag Shovel. Lets you target an Earth Machine Xyz monster you control, flip it to defense position to destroy a monster, or flip it to attack position, depending on which one you start as, to destroy a spell or trap. Easy interruption, versatile, doesn't negate, but it is just a good choice overall. Next up is the extra deck. Before we get to the actual staples that you want in your extra deck, we need to address the elephant in the room. Infinitrack Fortress Megaclops is an awesome name, and it has a super cool artwork. But when it comes to being an actual card, this card is not very good. You need 3 Xyz monsters to summon it. That's really a really high cost, even if it does recycle one once you get it out on the field. It's just too much of a cost. It is unaffected by monster effects that are not Xyz monsters, so this thing can still get castelled. And then its other ability is you can target an Xyz monster. You can target a monster on your opponent's side of the field, summon a Xyz monster from your graveyard, and then attach that monster to it as a material. It's a really great effect, but I've never been able to pull off this card in an attempt to actually win the game. It's usually just because, like, oh, I'm going to flex on him and summon Infinitrack Fortress. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's great. This easily could just be Borload Dragon, though. You can use any big boss monster you want instead of this that's more generic and easier to summon. But I'm stubborn and I love this card, so I'm going to play it anyway. Next up is the 3 Infinitrack Goliath. This is your main, playmaker of the card. You can use any non-link Infinitrack monster to make it, and then when it leaves the field, you can attach it to a Machine XE's monster that you control, and it is protected from card destruction, so that it cannot be destroyed anymore. Super easy summon, gives you that extra slot to make more stuff, and then it's easy to get rid of to attach to something and make more things. Really simple, really effective card here, and it synergizes so well with the XE's monsters. You want to run 3. Next, rounding off the links, is Cleafort Genius. Its actual effect is useful where you can target a card on your side of the field to negate that card, and 1 card on your opponent's side of the field. It is useful, but mostly you just use it to get rid of stuff that you don't want on the field anymore. Use the Infinitrack Goliath that you don't want anymore, or some of the tokens that you'll see later. And it's really useful, and it can win you games, but it's mostly just good for the arrows. Next, we'll talk about our Instant Fusion target. Yes, it's a card from a million years ago, but all that matters is it's an Earth level 5 machine. All of these things synergize with the deck, and plus Cybersaurus is just way cooler than Parasychroid, which is the only other one that meets these requirements. So I run Cybersaurus. I like the card, even though it's bad and old, and it's all frayed where I've had it for so long. I probably got this when I was like in elementary school, but it's serving its purpose. I guess its purpose. More useful than anything else it's ever been good for. Next is, we're going to move on to the XE's monsters. So all Infinitrack XE's monsters share these same 2 effects. I'm going to state them now so we don't have to repeat them. When it's in the graveyard, you can use a Earth Machine Link monster from the field, tribute it, special summon it from the graveyard, and when it destroys a monster by battle, it can attach it to itself as a material instead of sending it to the graveyard, which can help with floating effects. It also instantly activates your Infinitrack Goliath to connect to one of these cards. Super great combos here. The actual reason you want to run Riverstormer, though, is because it's an Overraptor. You can add a Infinitrack, 1 Earth Machine monster from your deck to your hand, or send it to the graveyard. Lots of versatility. Easiest thing to make. Way better than a lot of the other plays that you can do with level 5s. I haven't been able to find a rank 5 monster that is better than this card, so I just run the 2. Next thing is Infinitrack Mountain Smasher. Detach a material, gain 1,000 attack. Great. Big beater. It's not a very good card, but usually you just use it to get more attack on the board and get to your bigger XZ's monsters. So for that purpose, it's fine. It's still not very good, but it's mandatory to run. The actual Bosch-is monster that you want to play is Infinitrack Earth Slicer. Detach as many materials as you want. Destroy that many cards on the field. Super easy card destruction. Lets you get rid of as many things as is attached to it. Super powerful. Lots of attack. Super great. And then we're going to move on to the outside archetype cards. Of course, if you're playing level 5 machines, you want to play Cyber Dragon Infinity. Everybody knows that. It's one of the best cards they've ever made. I love this card, and it's great. Next, play extension, easy removal, Mecha Phantom Beast Draco Sack. Use its ability to get the tokens, make Cleafort Genius, pop a card. Protects itself, so you don't have to connect your Goliath to it if you have tokens. Super versatile, super easy to use. The only thing is that if you use Outrigger Extension, you can't special summon the tokens that turn because they are wind technically, so you can't do that. But as long as you just use a Harvester to make it, you can do whatever you want with the tokens as well. Next up, of course, a super easy choice. If you're going to be able to make rank 9s, you want to run the True King of All Calamities. One of the greatest floodgate cards out there. Opponents' monsters on the field just can't activate effects. Big body, big defense. You can use it in attack or defense, use it as a wall, whatever you want to do. Super great card. And then round it off for the big damage. Super Dreadnought, Rail Cannon, Juggernaut, Libe. Instant kill turns a lot of the time. Super great. Use Earth Slicer. Use all Earth Slicer's materials to destroy things on the board. Rank it up in the Libe. Hit him in the face for 6,000 using the Earth Slicer as a material. Super fun. Probably one of the most exciting plays to pull off in this deck. I love this card. This is the other reason I wanted to play Infinitracks, is because you could make Libe, and I love Libe so much. So that rounds it off for the extra deck. Next, side deck choices. I have mostly gone to go with removal and back row hate removal. Pankratops, instant special summon most of the time because you do go second so much. Instant card destruction if you need it. Back row decks hate Infinitracks and they want to kill us. So 2 Denko. A lot of the times, if you've already had like a board set up, and sometimes even on your first turn that you get to play, you don't even use your normal summon. So I find Denko to lock down any cards that are on the field is super useful, especially if you just choose not to use Outrigger for that turn or whatever. Keep your monsters safe. And also, she's the girl. She's the greatest girl. And then on top of that, for back row destruction, 3 Twin Twister. Of course, I mean, it's Twin Twister. Everybody has Twin Twister in their side deck. Duh. Easy choice. Monster removal. Get rid of them all. No monsters on the field. Rid of all your opponent's monsters. Especially with lockdown effects, these cards are great. And then just for a little bit more of hand trap, anti-back row, red reboot, pay half your life points, put that card back face down. No more trap cards for the rest of the turn. Yeah, no more trap cards. So super easy choice as well because back row really does hate Infinitrack. But yeah, that's it. That's it for the deck profile. This deck profile has taken me like 17 times to record and get it to work. The last time I did it a whole record, and I got to the end and it was like, oh, I was recording in vertical the entire time. It was very disappointing. But that doesn't matter because now we're here at the end. I've done the video successfully. I've said everything I wanted to say. The card art for these cards is amazing. Infinitracks will probably be my favorite deck for a long time to come because they are versatile, and as soon as more generic Earth Machine monster support comes, we will have an even better deck here. I will keep updating this deck for the future. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Goodbye.